Hello, and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. In this video, we'll continue looking at royalty companies, and this time we're looking at Sandstorm Gold. As usual, the fundamental value that we're looking at in our valuation is a discounted per share value of the reserves and resources in the ground after costs and long-term debts. Remember that this is not an investment advice, and it's not even a complete picture of the valuation, as there are some other important factors that might influence the share price in the future, such as management decisions on diluting the shares, management decisions on acquiring new assets, and the future performance of those development and exploration assets in future. So this is just a quick look of what the company has in terms of its value in the ground. And this valuation actually took me quite a lot of time to go through the portfolio of sand, because unlike Franco-Nevada and Wheaton Precious Metals, sand doesn't actually report the total royalty ounces that they have across all of their royalty portfolio. So I had to go through each of the producing and development assets to have a look at the reserves and resources in the ground. And I still left out the exploration assets. So as you see, you can confirm all of the data by looking at their assets portfolio. Currently, the company has slightly over 200 assets in their royalty portfolio. Some of the data also comes from the Q3 report of 2020, from the corporate presentation, and from Yahoo Finance. By the way, today is the 1st of February 2021, and if you are watching this a couple of weeks later on YouTube, and if you want to have timely access to my analysis on a range of assets, as you can see, I update the members at myfinanceteacher.org pretty frequently. You can join us by clicking this register button. The first month is only $5 and it's $10 per month after that. Coming back to the valuation, as usual, we're going to look at three scenarios: balanced, conservative, and optimistic. In the balanced scenario, we plug in the price that is 2% below the ongoing market price. In the conservative scenario, we'll go another 10% down. And in the optimistic scenario, we're only 10% above the balanced scenario at $1,996. Let me suggest here that we treat the upper two scenarios as what might happen if the you-know-what really hits the fan. Because I wouldn't really expect gold prices to fluctuate around 1,600 over the next several years. And in the same vein, even our optimistic scenario is perhaps not really optimistic at all. If you expect recent money printing by the central banks all over the world to affect precious metals in any way, you would probably expect gold price far beyond $2,000 over the next few years. In either case, to make this analysis somewhat comparable to that of FNV and WPM that I published a couple of weeks ago, we'll stick to the same scenarios. Looking at the reserves that the company has in the ground. Unfortunately, Sandstorm doesn't report a consolidated royalty ounces in the ground as they themselves see them. So I had to go through a big chunk of their portfolio to have a look at the numbers. A quick reminder here, royalty ounces is what the royalty company would generally expect to receive in some sort of gold equivalent ounces from their royalty agreements with the miners. So going through the portfolio of Sandstorm, I saw that in many cases, unfortunately, the information provided is very scarce. For example, looking at this Emigrant mine in the US, operated by Newmont, we see that the company only reports reserves in the ground without reporting anything about the resources. And even this information dates back to 2012. So I tried to make a rough estimate of updated amount of reserves in the ground based on the expected annual production. And how about the resources? Well, nothing there, unfortunately. We also see that the information is really scarce, perhaps even for Sandstorm themselves. So what I'm trying to say is that the valuation I present in this video is a very rough estimate, which I hope still might be somewhat helpful to the viewers. So going through 11 producing mines and 10 developing mines of only precious metals, where Sandstorm actually has reserves of other commodities as well, I managed to add up around 369,000 of gold equivalent ounces. Looking at measured and indicated resources, a reminder here, in many cases these resources are not reported, so possibly the number here is wildly underestimated. In either case, again, going through the same producing and developing mines, I managed to add up around 194,000 of gold equivalent ounces, and that's exclusive of the reserves. The cash costs per ounce for Sandstorm are $278 per ounce. That's for the first 3 quarters of 2020, as they reported in their Q3 report for last year. The company has very little long-term debt and long-term obligations of only $3.6 million. Sandstorm has over 192 million shares outstanding, out of which 1.28% is in the insider hands. I throw in a small formula for insider hands as well, as those might turn out to be strong hands supporting the share price. We discount the value of extracting those reserves and resources in the ground over their mine life of 8 years for the reserves and 12 years for everything including the resources, and we finally arrive at our valuations, starting with a conservative valuation which only includes proven and probable reserves, which in this case possibly a little bit too pessimistic. But in either case, what it gives us is only $2.12 per share, which is only about a third of the ongoing market price. But remember, this doesn't even include all of the resources that the company has. None of the measured and indicated resources, never mind inferred resources. So if the gold price were to crash and a lot of exploration and development were to halt, the conservative valuation could possibly indicate the risk levels in that case. Looking at the balanced valuation, we'll plug in the gold price of $18.50 and still only look at proven and probable reserves, giving us only $2.40 per share, which is still less than half of the ongoing market price. Most interestingly, let's have a look at the optimistic valuation with a gold price of only under $2,000, where we include the proven and probable reserves and only half of the measured and indicated resources. Whether you think this is still a little bit pessimistic, whether you want to include full measured and indicated resources and see what that does to the valuation, let me know in the comments below. I'll try to make time to reply. So the optimistic valuation only gives us a share price of $3.75, which is still just over the half of the ongoing market price. So based on all of this, to be honest, in my personal and fictitious portfolio for the members at myfinanceteacher.org, I'm not holding Sandstorm, but it's still very unlikely that Sandstorm will drop under $4, especially if precious metals at least don't fall out of bed over the next few years. Remember, for this valuation, a lot of the information was hard to find, and likely the amount of reserves and resources is widely underestimated. In other highlights, over half of the company's development and exploration projects are in relatively safe jurisdictions, so that's pretty good. And in addition to that, as I mentioned, this valuation doesn't include any of the reserves and resources held within the exploration projects. Beyond precious metals, Sandstorm also has some reserves of diamond and copper, which is not included in the valuation and which will likely support the share price as well. Lastly, looking at the chart, blue line here is gold price, red line is Sandstorm. As you see, generally Sandstorm correlates positively with gold price, although the volatility on the company is much higher than on the gold price itself. So perhaps, regardless of suggested overvaluation at the moment, if gold recovers into the new intermediate cycle over the next couple of months, Sandstorm might still recover closer to its recent highs. And if you want to help that happen, you know what you gotta do. You gotta hit that like button and share your opinion in the comments. And that concludes our video. I wish you a productive day and good luck in your trades.